Ages, the story of Jason and Medea is extremely popular and even very often depicted on illuminated manuscripts. So to illustrate the stories that were told about them, about this couple. And I have selected a small number of manuscripts just to show you what kind of turn the story takes in visual terms. Again, there is something that changes here in the perception of Medea, but also in the perception of Jason. So you have here Jason that reaches Colchis and goes to King Aethys, who is the father of Medea's, just to ask for the Golden Fleece. The Golden Fleece is, of course, denied to him, so that another way to recover the fleece must be found. Very often, what is also depicted in illuminated manuscripts is the banquet that is held in the court of Colchis for Jason to welcome him and the Argonauts. And it is during this banquet that Medea and Jason met, and they begin again to make acquaintance one with the other, and then, of course, to fall in love also, we are told. The scene in the manuscripts is one extremely important. In the bedroom of Medea, you got Medea and Jason swearing their love to each other. But here there is a crucial point that I wanted, again, visually turn your attention to. Jason is swearing his love to Medea, is essentially saying, I love you, so if you help me to recover the Golden Fleece, I'm happy to marry you and to take you back with me to Iolcus, so to make you a queen, my queen. This is what's happening in the scene. But again, what Jason is doing here is literally taking an oath, and he's swearing on love, on the personification, on the god, on the statue of Cupid himself. I'm stressing this element because this oath makes, in a sense, is an important element, because he places the blame of what will happen next to Jason and not to Medea. The point is, we know how the story will continue, that the children will be killed and then Medea will take her revenge. But in a moment like this one, the idea of Jason swearing his love to Medea on the statue itself of Cupid, on the lover god, is crucial, because it helps creating the idea that it was Jason's fault. It was Jason who betrayed Medea, who betrayed their love. So it is, in a sense, also acceptable that Medea then killed the children and killed Creusa. It's quite a dangerous idea there, but very important for the medieval reception of Medea. Going forward, we got the moment when Medea actually gives Jason a series of the magical objects that will help him through the quest and through the recovery. They are visualized, as you see, again, like a ring, and then pots, and then the statue again of Cupid itself, as a visual aid, again, to try to understand for the medieval reader what this help was about concerning magical arts. The recovery of the Golden Fleece is, in some manuscripts, really beautiful, and I think in a very funny way depicted, as in this case here, manuscript in the British Library. On the left-hand side, we have Medea with her assistant looking, witnessing the episode and the labors, really, in a sense, of our Jason. Jason faces a series of tasks before actually reaching the Golden Fleece. And it is through these tasks that the help of Medea and her potions and her spells will be really be crucial. So these tasks involves, for example, fighting against and taming some fire-breathing oxen, fighting a whole army of deadly soldiers, and then of course killing the dragon. And the outcome, the final outcome, is there with our Jason really carrying the ram, not the fleece, as you can see, piggyback out of the scene and to Iolcos. In medieval Europe, the idea that Medea is the dangerous and vengeful woman that also killed her own children is not forgotten, is always there. Just the blame again can be shifted, but is often represented. This is one of the most beautiful manuscripts that we got to the story of Jason and Medea from the Middle Ages. And you see our Medea with their dragons storming into the banquet where Jason and Creusa actually will be present and killing the children in front of Jason's eyes. The story is also retold and perfectly summarized visually, I think, in these illuminations. We got from the left-hand side our Medea presenting the robes for Creusa to her children, the children going to Creusa with these poisonous gifts, and Creusa really burnt alive. We have atop of the scene our Medea killing one of her sons with Jason in desperation, of course, crying just before her, and the very beautiful depiction of Medea ascending to the sky in this tiny little chariot driven by the dragons. So I think really a very beautiful encapsulation of the scene. There is words, of course, that I wanted to mention, at least in passing, because this episode is particularly important in the later tradition after the Middle Ages, where it is often represented. When Jason and Medea, after recovering the Golden Fleece, head back to Iolcos, to Greece, the father of Medea, of course, goes into a chase on the sea to recover the Golden Fleece and to stop both Jason and Medea from living with the Golden Fleece, of course. So our Medea resolves to a very drastic option, that is to kill own brother Absyrtus and to dismember his body and to throw these body pieces into the sea in order to slow down the pursuit of our own father. So a very dramatic, horrific episode, but as I say, very popular in the visual tradition after antiquity. Medea is also the witch that really deceive Peleus' daughters, so the cousins of our Jason once they are back in Greece. Medea deceives them into killing their own father. So once back in Iolcos, Medea takes revenge on Peleus, the uncle that had actually usurped Jason's throne too. So Peleus is killed, but through her magical arts, Medea is also able to bring back to youth again, to rejuvenate Jason's father, that you see Aeson depicted on the left-hand side of this picture here. So there is a sense that magical arts, as actually exercised by Medea, are dangerous, are terrifying, but they may also be used for good, like in the case of Aeson. So it's not an utter condemnation of Medea, despite everything. Moving towards the end of the Middle Ages and the beginning of the Renaissance, there is an additional turn here. The emphasis when we deal with the history of Jason and Medea is always on the love story. And as a love story, it is presented. You got an ivory casket here that was possibly part of, again, a wedding gift. And you got a detail on the right-hand side. Jason is really the medieval knight, the courageous knight that fights against the dragon to recover the fleece, but also to win his princess Medea. So really the chivalrous nature of the episode is drawn into the story. Very often, and connected to wedding artifacts, connected to a wedding, we have in the 15th century the representation of the marriage of Jason and Medea, as if they were an ideal couple to look sort of even for inspiration. In the late 15th century, we do have several examples of what we call Cassoni. In the Italian, they are essentially Italian artifacts, and they are wedding chests made on occasion, commissioned on occasion of a marriage. And they have on the front, they have usually very beautifully painted and illustrated panels. And you have one example here, a couple of panels. The one at the top of the screen is about the story of the Argonauts in relation to the Argonauts leaving for Colchis. But the second one is more important to us because it's the one that focuses on Medea again. So you got some details. We got our Jason in his golden armor reaching Colchis and being welcomed by its king, who is accompanied by his daughters. And of the two daughters, Medea is the one dressed in pink. We have also the depiction of the tasks that Jason carried out and of his conquest, of his final recovery of the Golden Fleece that you see is really hanging there at the very center of a garden that has become really a labyrinth, even, you know, with castle towers at the very ends. There is an additional element that I know is in the background, is a bit of dark scene, but trust me, it is what I'm going to say now. It is the depiction of the rejuvenation of Aeson, of the father of our Jason. So we got Medea on the left-hand side, taking really Jason to the moment, to the place where the magical arts will work and on Aeson, and will be able to take him back to his youth. On the right-hand side, we have the white figure of Hecate, the goddess present to the scene with their dogs. So the magical arts are known, of course, as you know, and as an essential feature of Medea. They are not hidden, but the selection here of the magical arts of Medea is really places the emphasis on the positive side. Here Medea is exercising her art not only to help Jason recovering the Golden Fleece, but also to bring back to youth his father. So the idea to place such a subject and such a story, a series of episodes on an artifact like this one, that was connected to a wedding and celebration of a wedding, is really to show Medea as the ideal wife who makes abilities, even in this case a magical art, to disposal, even to the disposal of her husband, and she's able to help me achieving something important and something great. So this is again the turn that the story of our Medea takes in the Renaissance. Towards the end of the 16th century, so the end of the Renaissance, we have a very rare also, not really something that you find very often, a depiction of the whole story of Jason and Medea in 18 episodes, and it is a fresco cycle, a fresco frieze just below a ceiling, as you can see, in an important palace of Bologna in Italy. So the whole story of Jason and Medea is shown there, from essentially the childhood of Jason and the construction of the ship Argo, to the moment of the meeting of Jason and Medea. And if you still remember the medieval manuscripts that we had seen, you will see that the essential elements are still the same. The banquet on the one side, here on the left-hand side, and the oath literally still on the statue of Cupid, of the god of love, that Jason is making with Medea, and under, I have to say, the eyes of the statue of the goddess Hecate. So many elements are really the same that we have already found in the Middle Ages. There is depicted surely the recovery of the Golden Fleece with this very huge dragon lying there. There is the depiction of the murder and the terrible death of Absyrtus, Medea's brother. And again, her responsibility is not hidden. She's on the right-hand side of the screen, of the picture, really carrying out the deed, carrying out the murder. So nothing is really hidden of this very troubling figure. There is an additional image here, which is a fresco that is usually called Medea's Enchantment. Medea is shown during the night, taking a bath into a spring that is clearly connected to magical arts and to magical powers. She's also on the left-hand side. She's making sacrifices to the goddess Hecate, and she's also represented in the sky, taking her flight on our chariot. So the disturbing, as I say, but also the very peculiar elements of Medea are not hidden. As I was saying, the moment of the rejuvenation of Aeson by Medea is often represented in the later tradition. You got a very beautiful example here from the 18th century, and you see that the elements of witchcraft are present and highlighted. On the right-hand side, I think you can see the cauldron, and then the book of spells, and then the base of the altar and the statue of Hecate. And our Medea has also a magical wand in her hand, and then we have the very old but soon very young body of our Aeson lying there. So magical arts, but used for good and not for bad. Among the last examples that I wanted to show you, there is again this emphasis on the love story that has some very beautiful examples, again visual examples, in a series of tapestries that were made and then really spread through Europe around the mid of the 18th century. You got one of those designs for a larger tapestry here that is kept in London, the National Gallery, with Jason swearing his love to Medea. And you see again, the medieval description of the episode is still there, but with these rococo, these very gracious and pretty atmosphere there. You got the statue of Hecate, you got Cupid shooting his arrow to the happy couple. So there is not really the sense in a picture like this one of the drama of the story. But the very final scene of these series of tapestries when conceived is usually this, with Medea ascending on her chariot. And as I was mentioning earlier, this moment that is so, terrifying and dramatic, because she is in this moment the murderer that killed their own sons, is visually represented really as a triumph, with Medea up in the sky on a magnificent chariot with these very beautiful dragons, and Jason on the foreground, but again, really frightened off by the vision. So a terrifying character, the one of Medea, but again, one that is able to terrify, but also to mesmerize us also in the contemplation, of our power. In the course of the 18th century, late 18th century, but particularly 19th century, we have very important representations of Medea that I cannot, of course, examine today with you, but at least one must be mentioned. And it is the one that is usually known as the Golden Fleece, depicted by Draper, so an important painter of the Victorian age. You got the scene, again, usually labeled the Golden Fleece, but you are able to clearly identify the scene. The precise episode is shown here, and is the murder of Absyrtus, of Medea's brother. And Medea is really taking center stage on the ship, on which that is Argo, on which she's flying away. She's going away from Colchis. The Golden Fleece of the title is the one that is really shown off by Jason, but in the foreground, in the background, really Medea is taking center stage here, and with her fleeing brother that will be sacrificed nonetheless. So quite a big painting for a subject that is really emphasizing the true nature of Medea and what she's capable of doing. But again, at least we are spared the actual killing of her brother. Very last example, because I wanted to mention that in the course of the 19th century, Medea was a very popular heroine on the stage, really on theatres, on theatrical production of the time. And possibly the most famous poster that we have from that time, very Art Nouveau and very beautiful in its rendition of Medea, is the one that you see here, made for the very famous and very important Sarah Bernard, who was a very famous actress of the time. And she was bringing on the stage the representation of Medea, the play of Euripides, and the scene, the episode that is chosen to advertise also the event is the killing of the children. But as you can see, these terrified gaze, you got a detail here, but also her dress, a scarf really veiling even mouth, seems to suggest really the unspeakable truth of what our own personality in the end was able to bring about. These places Medea into the category, we can say, of the femme fatale that was so loved, particularly in the late part of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th centuries. So very fascinating women, always there. Seduction is a crucial element in here, but also danger. There is a dark aspect to their power that cannot really be overcome and must be also expressed. So all these elements of Medea, I think, and the very complex nature of this figure, of this character also, I think were lighted through centuries in different ways. Either the love story or the betrayal actually of that love story, or the emphasis on the sorcerers, on the witch, on the magical arts, on the danger that are part of our power. I think again that over time we've got a better sense of these different elements that in the end make up the popularity and the fascination that we still have, I think, for a figure like Medea. So on that note, I thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy this.